Hey everyone, Carrie Beck here with Homeschool Coffee Break, where we help you stop the overwhelm so you can actually take a coffee break from homeschooling. Wouldn't that be marvelous? Sometimes there's just a lot of overwhelm, but we're going to talk to you about a few ideas today about history. And I believe this is the most important history subject that you can actually teach your kids. Before we dive into that, I do want to ask you a favor. If you have not subscribed to our channel, would you please click the little subscribe button wherever it happens to be? I would love for you to be able to get this on a regular basis. Plus, when you do that, it also helps us get this message out to more and more people. All right, so today we are going to talk about what is the most important history that you need to teach, no matter where you live in the world? So some of you, as I'm an American. We live here. I grew up learning American history over American history year after year after year. I think I had 1 year of world history, seriously, taught by our basketball coach. He was a nice guy. I really liked him. We went to the state championship when I was a senior in high school. But was that really what was the most important? No, I would not say so. Even American history. And there's a lot of heritage in American history, a lot of heritage in our family with world history. But what I would like to share with you is what I think is the most important type of history that you can teach. And that is church history and Bible history. Now, obviously, Bible history comes from the Bible. Didn't really plan on this. I don't know my Bible right there. I just got home from Bible study, so I don't know where my Bible is. But too often we will dive into the Bible, but we skip church history. I learned a little bit as a kid, but I will tell you this: when I started homeschooling, I realized church history is one of the most important things that I can teach, because this is my kids' heritage as a believer. No matter where I landed on the denomination, I mean, in my eyes, I feel like we've got Protestants, we have Catholics, we have Greek Orthodox. There's a lot there, but it all revolves and starts from the New Testament church. So what I'd like to do to you is talk to you about how we can do this. But I want to start with just a question. What do you know about church history? What do your kids know? Church history or Bible history, either one. Now, obviously, Bible history is only the Bible. You can go there. I'm going to give you a few little tips on Bible history. What do you know? And if you don't know, what can you do to sort of make up for lost time? Let's talk about that. All right. Let's first talk about Bible history and a few little tips that you could actually use. I really like Veritas Press. I actually got their cards years, well, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. That's really how long ago. This is their Old Testament. So we have creation. Now, this is not in order: Cain and Abel, the call of Abraham, Isaac and Rebekah. And on back of each one of these cards is a short little description with the Bible reference and any other reference book that you might use to teach that. I love this for two reasons. One, it's chronological. You can take it and turn it into a timeline, which, as I'm thinking, I've got to bring my giant timeline, but I will talk about that in a minute. Two, they have songs. Kids love songs. Kids learn information. Songs. It is great for elementary kids because kids love to learn facts. We may get tired of it ourselves, but there are songs. And I will just tell you a quick little story. Sitting right here in the kitchen, we would have breakfast here. The kids would go off, get ready, practice the piano. I would go to the sink right there and I would clean up the kitchen. But before I got over there into the living room, each morning they would, okay, this is old, they would turn on a little cassette tape. Y'all probably don't even know what a cassette tape is, or like a CD, which you probably don't use those either. Turn on the music wherever it comes from. And I would eventually walk in and they were listening to the song that sang creation, fall of the garden, Cain and Abel, all of these. They would be singing and dancing and having fun learning it. Having fun. They didn't even know they were learning it. And I'll put a link to Veritas Press, but wherever you're listening in the show notes. But the other thing I like about that, it's not just Bible history. There are all history. So you're going to get church history integrated into it. So let's say you're studying ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, you're going to get some Bible integrated. Let's say you are studying the Middle Ages, you're going to get all of the Reformation and all of that integrated into that. No matter what side, I believe that no matter wherever side you are, as far as your denomination, your kids need to know all of it. Personally, I'm a Protestant. That is my theology. That is my belief according to the Bible. Whether you agree or disagree doesn't really matter. But I taught my kids what Catholics believed and what Protestants believed, and Greek Orthodox. I taught all of it because I wanted my kids to have a full understanding. Before we move into church history, I do want to show you a few little things. You can actually use books. Now, this is not Bible, but this is called Within the Palace Gates. This is the story of Ezra, the cupbearer, to Nehemiah. It is historical fiction. It's a great way to sort of get you and your family to dive in to Bible history. A historical fiction, meaning the events are true, but the dialogue is just fiction. This one is twice free. It is the story of Onesimus, which the book of Philemon in the Bible is based on. It's historical fiction, but it tells the story of his slavery and moving back and forth. So there are lots of great books like that. But let's move into church history, which is where I really want to center today. I have two books I really want to share with you. As an adult, if you have no idea anything about church history, but you're like, I need to know this. This is the book for you, Church History in Plain Language. Now look at that. You're thinking, no, Carrie, I don't have time. Look how fat that is. There is no way I'm going to read it. Let me tell you right now, you can do it. One, it's stories. It is stories, and they're divided up easily. Catholic Christianity, Catholic in Big C Catholic, that is the universal church. And so we have books, we have Gnosticism in here, we have all sorts of things. You're probably going, I don't know any of that. Let me move forward and we can go into the Age of Reformation. This particular section right here, I can find a timeline somewhere. There's a huge piece of it. Well, you can see all my underlining. We've got Martin Luther in there. Okay. Age of Revolution, you're going to get a timeline, and then for each one of those, you're going to get a story that's only like 3 or 4 pages long. I didn't think I would ever read this. I've read it 2 or 3 times. It is very fascinating, but you're probably going, okay, let's back it up. Let's go to a kid's version. My favorite kids' church history book, Trial and Triumph. This is old. This is the old cover. There's an updated one by Richard Hanela. All the stories in here are like 3 or 4 pages long, starting with the early church, then the Middle Ages, Reformation, post-Reformation, modern missions around 1700 to 1951, and then recent times. But seriously, each little section is just very early. Let's go to early church. We've got Patrick, missionary to the Irish, and you've got a story that's about 4 pages long. And that's it. This is one of my favorite ones. The other thing that I have done is each year at Homeschool Superheroes, I have the Superheroes of the Faith. And that is something that will also dive deep. Each week, each year, I have 5 superheroes in church history, and they vary, men and women, early church, recent church, Middle Ages, Reformation, all sorts of things. Some that are martyred, some that are not, but they stood for faith. I don't have any examples to hold because I've given all of these to my children. But there are now board books for preschoolers. Let me give you a few. The Woman Who Helped a Reformer, that's Kitty, Martin Luther's wife. The Man Who Preached Outside, George Mueller. And The Woman Who Loved Books. And I believe, Spurgeon's wife. She was sick. She didn't think she could do anything. So she started sharing her library of books with pastors that needed help. Those are board books that are 10 pages long. Then we have some very simple picture books. Again, I don't have samples to show you, but they are awesome. And they're a little bit more for elementary age. One of them is Fanny Crosby, the girl who couldn't see but helped the world to sing. Just gave that to my granddaughter when she turned 5 in May. Amy Carmichael, the brown-eyed girl who learned to Pray. Betsy Stockton is the first one. She was an African American, I believe, don't quote me, a slave from the Civil War, who then went on to be a missionary in Hawaii. Is that not awesome? There are just so many great stories. The other thing I would really encourage you to do is use some good biographies. Now, nice little stack here. There are so many more than that. I really can't find my copy of St. Patrick, pioneer missionary to Ireland. But before him, we have Augustine. This is the kid's book, The Farmer Boy of Tagasta. You could read City of God as an adult, but this is like a kid's version. He was a prodigal. He was rebellious. His mom, Monica, prayed and prayed and prayed. And I've got him on Hope Superheroes of the Faith. Great little book to be able to tell you. They're not going to dive into his prodigal life, but they are going to say he wasn't following God. He finally eventually turned to God and then became one of the greatest theologians of all times. We've got another Augustine who went to Kent in England, and there's his story. These are on kids' reading level. Morning Star of the Reformation. This is John Wycliffe and all that he did to translate the Bible and how it was the beginning of the Reformation. John Calvin, John is not afraid. Now, look, this is easy reader stuff. Now, that may not be the picture you want, but still, each chapter is just like a page or two. Simple reading. That's like early, second and third grade. Here's another one. Now, this same man, John Calvin, this would be for junior high ages as well. I already mentioned Kitty Luther. This is a great book on Kitty Luther, and these are biographies, real stories of what had happened. Now let's move into science. We have someone named Blaise Pascal, all right? And he is here in the 1600s. He is a scientist. You can learn more about him. Along came Galileo, who went completely against the church. Read his story. We actually read this aloud as one of our read alouds instead of reading a literature book one time. And that's how we learned about Galileo and what he stood for. Let's move on to music. We have Mr. Pipes and a whole series. These are psalms and hymns of the Reformation. And so each one has a story of kids that have moved into that time period, but they're for each one of them, they will also include one of the hymns that was at that time. Move on to current time. I love YWAM. There's many of these. I just grabbed the David Livingston one, which is in the 1800s. I was double checking my dates. There are just so many great. So how can we teach church history? Number one, read great biographies. Read them out loud to your kids. Make it exciting. This is their heritage. Use timelines. Let them make timelines. We have got a world timeline from creation to about 2000. If I opened it up and I forgot to bring it in here, it would go from here to about 10 feet down. It's huge. And then there's all these color lines and it shows all the different heritage and nations that were going on. Hands-on activities. Great way to do it. Songs. I've already mentioned the Veritas Press just learning the events, but what about St. Patrick's Hymn? I love that song, and most of you probably don't even know it. Look it up, St. Patrick's Hymn. I'll put a link to it. A Mighty Fortress by Martin Luther, who he wrote. And we actually, at the time of Reformation Day in October, one or more years, we would sing that every single day for a month because I wanted my kids to learn hymns. They heard worship songs, current songs at church. They didn't know hymns. So one way I wanted to integrate church history was to introduce them to songs of history, the hymns as well. And so that would be another way. So you want to make it exciting, read great books, sing songs, use timelines, and then have a party. Let's have a party. You can do a party at all times. You could do a party during during Augustine, going over to Rome and do a Roman party. You could do one at St. Patrick's Day in early England time. One of our favorite parties was Reformation Day. I had never heard of it. I didn't really know what Reformation Day was. It's October 31st when Martin Luther nailed his 95 Thesis on the church wall in Wittenberg. And then November 1st is All Saints Day. Our world, our church has taken Halloween and turned it into darkness. Halloween comes from hallowed Eve, the day before All Saints Day. It was a hallowed day. We can actually recognize it as believers as a good day that we can honor God. And we can learn about the Reformation and what it stood for. Whether you agree with Martin Luther or not, you can still teach your kids. For us, we use that time to learn a lot about just plain old history during the Reformation. We actually had a few parties here at this house. We had some up in Idaho. I remember we had stairs over there, which were the stairs that many of the believers would climb up to in Rome. They would climb up to the cathedral or whatever it was. We had calligraphy. We had acted out. We would take parts. We would sing songs. We would all bring food. I personally brought food that was typical that you could actually cook over a fire because I would bring sausage that I had just cooked over a fire, and then I would just mix together some chopped up potatoes and veggies and mix them with some broth and let them cook like that. So we had some food and we ate dinner or lunch together, depending on the time of day. You could do a Reformation party. If you need ideas on that, we've got helps. I will link that in to the show notes of some ideas if you want to have a Reformation Day party as well. So I personally believe that church history is the most important history besides Bible history. That is the Word of God. But if we're going to go beyond the Bible, what is most important? It's our heritage as believers. That is what I think um, we need to teach our kids. Do they know their Christian heritage, or do we just keep teaching about the American Revolution and the Civil War and whatever else it is you teach your kids? I would challenge you and use the resources that we're going to link to wherever you're watching this in the show notes. Hey, thanks for spending time with me. I am Carrie Beck with Homeschool Coffee Break. Talk to you next time.